مساء الخير جميعا وشكرا جزيلا لحضوركم. هذا الويبينار اللي هو واحد من سلسلة ويبينارات تقدمها منصة الأكاديميات العراقيات. هذا الويبينار بالذات هو الجزء الثالث لمجموعة ويبينارات يقدمها معنا دكتور مؤيد ججو مشكورا. يعني هذه المقدمة للحضور اللي مشاركين معنا بالعربية، وراح ننتقل إلى الإنجليزية، والويبينار سيكون باللغة الإنجليزية. Hello everyone again, and thank you for joining us in this webinar, which is one of the webinars of the series of webinars that the Iraqi Women Humanities scholars present. This is part 2 of three webinars already presented by Dr. Muayed Jajo. The first one, I'll just do a reminder of the titles of the ones we presented already. Part 1, take the teaching to the next level. Part 2, advanced prompting techniques. And today, Dr. Muayed is going to present artificial intelligence and digital humanities from authorship to interpretation. The other webinars, the host of the other webinars already introduced Dr. Muayed, but I find it necessary to introduce him again shortly, of course. Dr. Muayed Jajo is a PhD holder in English language and literature. He has worked as an assistant professor of English at 10 universities and several academic institutions. He supervised 25 PhD dissertations and over 60 master theses. He also held the position of the chairman of the Japan Friendship Association in Suleimania, in Iraq. He is currently the chairman of the Department of English Language and Literature at Comar University of Science and Technology. He has taken many extensive courses in psychology, music, programming, photography, video production, graphic design, biology, and lately artificial intelligence. Everybody who knows Dr. Muayed will know that this is not it, of course. There's always many more. I am very honored to host this webinar and also to present Dr. Muayed. I had the honor to be his student in my BA and my MA, and also he's working with me as an editor in the Journal of the College of Education for Women, I hope you will enjoy this webinar and all the information presented by Dr. Muayed. The floor is yours, and we are all ears, Dr. Muayed.
Thank you very much, Dr. Adhraa, for your introduction, and thank you everyone for having me. Thank you all for the guests to be here, and I would like to thank the platform IWHS for having me here today. This is it's an honor to be here and to be presenting this series. This is the third of the 3 presentation series, and in this presentation I'll be dealing with addressing issues related to authorship, to ethics, to interpretation and readership when it comes to using AI. So I will thank you very much again, and I will go right ahead and share my screen with you, if you allow me. I don't know if you can see my screen. Hello?
Yes.
Okay. So I would like to start with a definition of digital humanities. So digital humanities is when we use digital technology in analyzing human culture. And by analyzing human culture, this is an umbrella term. It covers multitudes, but it also includes the composition or the output, the literary and artistic output of humans. So this is what it actually does. It examines, among other things, of course, how texts are composed, that's authorship, and how they are interpreted, and that would be readership and criticism. This also includes attitudes and ethics, authorship, and interpretation. These are the three things we'll be addressing. So when it comes to texts in general, there are three things we can do with texts. We can generate texts. That's authorship. We can read text. That is readership. And we can also analyze texts. That would be criticism. These are, again, the 3 points we'll be focusing on. So in this presentation, we'll be focusing on the interaction of artificial intelligence with these 3 roles: the role of the author, the role of the reader, and the role of the critic. So let's start with authorship. One of the questions we have to address is the authority of the author. In how much does the author control and generate a text? There are 4 phases of authorship we have to be familiar with. The first phase originated, let's say, from day 1 in history to the 19th century. During this period, the author is human, and also the author is thought to be the sole originator of meaning in a text. And the third point is that the author is not important. That's why we had many anonymous texts. Examples of anonymous literature include, for example, fairy tales, folk tales, ballads. Most of the literature that came down to us from that period in history is actually anonymous because the author was not important. Why was the author not important? Because the text at that time was considered as a reflection of its culture. And the author, as the generator of the text, is the output of that culture. So we were not expecting personal ideas from an author. That's why authors were not really, were relegated, were not very important. And then we move on to the second phase in authorship. It started with Romanticism at the beginning of the 19th century. And here, the author is still human, of course, and the author is the only originator of meaning in a text. That is the key difference between the first phase and the second phase. And also, you see, because the author was considered as a unique personality, a peculiar individual. And any text written back then was considered to be the reflection of the author's ideas, the author's attitudes, moods, and views. And example is all romantic literature, of course, is an example. And I'm giving you specific example, lyrical ballads by Wordsworth and Coleridge, or John Keats's odes, for example, Ode on Aggression Art. So this is the second phase in authorship. Now, the third phase in authorship started with the rise of psychology at the beginning of the 20th century. Now, at the beginning of the 20th century, the concept of the author started undergoing a kind of change. Because, well, still the author is human, and the author is not the sole originator of meaning in the text. We will find out in a minute why. And the author is very important. So, example is all modern literature. If we, the birth of Freud, Sigmund Freud is often considered the father of psychology, because he was the first one who said that we do things based on hidden motives. Before Freud, people thought that whatever we do, we know why we're doing whatever we do. So we're aware of our motives. But with Freud, there's this idea of the unconscious. So for the first time in the history of mankind, we come across the idea that we don't know, that sometimes we don't know why we are doing what we are doing, because there are hidden drives and motives behind our behavior and our speech. And then after Freud came Carl Jung, who was a student of Freud, by the way, and he came up with the idea. Of course, Freud introduced the idea of the unconscious for the first time, and Jung added the adjective collective unconscious to tell us that we inherit a number or a set of motifs, of ideas, of drives from our predecessors. So in other words, we usually reflect our culture or the collective culture. So this is what Carl Jung said, and this means what actually this all amounts to is that the author, what the author produces, that is the text, is actually not just a reflection of the author himself, personal experiences only, but also the collective experience of mankind. So this brought the new idea that the author is not the sole originator of the text. And then there's Roland Barthes, who wrote this essay, The Death of the Author. And in his essay, he also mentioned that the author is not the sole creator or originator of the text. His essay argued that the author should not be treated as the ultimate authority. And why? Because when an author uses language, when I use language, I'm not using, a language that I invented. I'm using a language that already exists with all, and it's a system, it's a full system with all its patterns, lexes, structures, and I'm only transmitting this system to you as a reader. I might reshape it, I might modify it, yes, but it's not really my own language. I'm already using and therefore, since language pre-existed the author, and since the author is has inherited or acquired this language, therefore the author is not the only originator of language. He's a transmitter, and that's why he calls the text a tissue of quotations. That's what he calls the text. And also, he has this famous conclusion in his essay, The Death of the Author. He says that the birth of the reader actually makes way for is at the cost of the death of the author. And that takes us to another level of authorship, which is the reader as the author. I will talk about that in a minute. But also Michel Foucault also challenged this idea of the author as the sole originator of the text. And in his essay, What is an Author? He defines the author as a function, as a role, not as a person, but only as a function within discourse. And what Foucault says about the process of composition is that he says that the author reorganizes, limits or relimits, and then regulates discourse in order to produce a text. So he's already working with a model that already existed before him. And my favorite American stand-up comedian is George Carlin. And this reminds me of what he once said in his one of his routines. He says sometimes, like the judge at a court or a teacher in a class says to the students, "Tell me in your own words." So he says, "Well, I personally use the words I already know. I don't have my own words." And he's right, I mean, in this sense, because we don't have our own words. We're just organizing words we already know. So I'm gradually coming to AI. And then the fourth phase is actually the AI phase. This is, for the first time in history, the author is non-human. It is AI. So the author is not the only originator, again, and the author is not important, again. The only difference between this phase and the phase before it is that the author is not human, because it agrees with the previous phase that the author is not important and the author is not the only originator of the text. So AI as an author, how can AI be an author? There are three stages that transforms a machine into an author. The first one is an AI model is trained on a very large number or corpus of texts. The second stage is that this AI model then conducts an analysis of all the linguistic patterns of these texts. And then the third stage is that this model, after it is trained on this large corpus of texts, it's going to start generating, predicting texts based on this analysis.
Dr. Muayed,
Yes.
I just want to tell you that we are only seeing the first slide. The slides are not.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Just a minute. Okay. Can you see this slide? It says AI as author.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. All
It's
right.
good. Now it's also a full screen.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. So now if I move on to the next slide, you can see me switching to the next slide. You can see
Yes.
that. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Sorry. So I was just telling you how AI becomes an author. There are three stages. The first one is AI is trained on the model, and then it analyzes this model, and then it generates texts, new texts based on this model. And there are constraints. We can use constraints when it comes to generating a text. It could be a topic constraint. For example, I asked GPT, ChatGPT, or any GPT actually, that to write a story about a poor child. I'm just restricting the prompt to a topic. It could be a period constraint. For example, write a Victorian, that's the period, the Victorian story about a poor child. I can use genre constraints. So for example, write a ballad, that's the genre, write a ballad about a poor child. And I can also use an author constraint. So I can ask ChatGPT to create a Shakespeare agent, and then I ask this agent to write a sonnet about a poor child. So in part 2 of this presentation series, we already learned how we can create an agent. Can you see the new slides as I'm switching?
Yes, yes, doctor, yes.
Oh, okay. So, for example, we can create an author agent, an AI agent which functions as an author, and then we start asking that, prompting it to compose writings that echo the style, the mood, the themes, the motifs of that specific author, and to mimic even the author's uniqueness, unique style, and peculiarities. For example, I created an AI agent, and then from that agent, I created a Shakespeare agent, and then I asked the Shakespeare agent within ChatGPT to write a sonnet, which has Shakespeare's style and Shakespeare's fingerprint on it. So it gave me this sonnet about a jasmine that is written in the same vein and the same style of Shakespeare. So if we ask this question, so who is the author of this sonnet, this one that was generated by AI? Is it AI? In fact, it's not just AI. So it is AI that created it, but it's also Shakespeare himself as an indirect author. Why? Because that AI model has been trained fully on all Shakespeare's canon, all the works written by Shakespeare, and therefore generated this in the same style. The AI user, myself, I'm also participating in the writing and the shaping of this sonnet. Why? Because I wrote the prompt that generated that. So that prompt that I wrote generated that sonnet. The programmers and the AI engineers also contributed in the process. They're also, so to speak, authors, because they created the model and they decided how it thinks and generates texts. The readers who read the sonnet are also the authors, in the sense that they determine what the text is all about, especially the meaning of the text, of course. So we here come to the idea that the reader is also an author. It's based on the assumption that objects exist when they are perceived. So in other words, if there is no reader, there is no text. And this reminds me of the classical philosophical question. This is a very, a traditional classical question. If a tree falls in a forest and there's no one around to hear it fall, then does it make a sound? So that is the question that philosophers often use to illustrate the idea that objects do not exist without perception. This means that we have come to accept the idea that the singular authorship concept is actually a thing of the past. So what do we call this concept, this new concept of authorship? We call it distributed authorship. So distributed authorship means that there is no single author of a text. Actually, a text is, as Bart called it, a tissue of quotations, the outcome of several factors that go into the making of a text, including the author himself, of course. AI also reshaped our idea of originality, because traditionally creativity has been understood as a human capacity. So now it's understood as also, in addition to being a human capacity, it's a machine capacity. So AI can contribute in the process of creativity. And we all agree that there is no pure originality. I mean, originality, absolute originality, is actually a myth. Creativity is reorganizing, recombining, recontextualizing things or elements that already exist. Therefore, it's derivative by nature. And I would like to give you this example of the invention of the airplane. The airplane, for example, is it an absolute invention? No, it's not invented from scratch, actually, because whoever invented the plane must have been inspired by nature, by the birds, of course. So AI shaped our concept of creativity. I'll skip collective narrative. AI could also serve as a co-author, not as a pure author, but as a co-author. So many authors today use AI as a co-author. So what do we mean by that? They use AI as a co-author either during the pre-writing process. So for example, you give a prompt to AI in order to create the framework of a narrative, and then you pick it up from there in order to polish this narrative. Or you can also use AI within the post-writing process. In other words, you create the core narrative, and then you ask AI to polish it for you. So in this case, you are using AI as a co-author. Or you can also limit its use, limit AI's use in authorship, and use it as a writing assistant, not as a co-author. So for example, you write your story or your text, and then you ask AI to edit and proofread it. This minimizes the role of AI. The question that many people ask today, it's a major controversy, is can human authors rely on AI? Well, the question could be yes or no, but this flowchart shows you very clearly what we have to do. So if you intend to use AI in your story, first of all, you have to check because you're going to publish this work. So check with the publisher. Do they have an AI policy? If they allow that, then okay, go ahead and submit your work. But before that, you should also check what their policy is. Does it comply with their policy or not? If no, then that's plagiarism. If yes, then go ahead and submit it. But also, acknowledgement is also important. Even if the publisher accepts AI in authorship, and even if you follow their policy, their AI policy, you should still acknowledge that it was written in part by AI. So you have to acknowledge AI as a co-author or as an assistant. Otherwise, it could also be considered plagiarism. So this flow chart should be used by authors whenever they have this intention to use AI in their work. Now, this is a very important and famous case where a novelist wrote a horror novel, and she published her novel in 2025, but claiming that she did not actually use AI. But later on, AI was detected, and the novel was taken down, of course. And that's why we have to be cautious. We have to be very careful about these three things. First of all, the policy that the publisher uses, then compatibility, and finally, acknowledgement. And many authors today are anti-AI authors. So they are against the use of AI in composing their texts. And it's very important to know that universities today, schools, most of them have what they call AI policy, and to guide their students and faculty on what is and what is not allowed when using AI. So universities, some of them already have this AI policy. I have a list of their links to their AI policies. We can use them actually to just create our own AI policy at the university or schools. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess because students and faculty will not know exactly what to do with AI. They will just follow their own beliefs on what should or what should not be used. And a University of Cambridge report found that 51% of surveyed UK published novelists believed that AI could eventually replace their work. 33% said that AI is used actually in some of their work. So, I mean, as I said, there's no problem using AI, and that's a link to this survey if you're interested. So as I said, there's no problem using AI in your writing, research, as long as it follows the AI policy of the publisher or the institution you're submitting your work to. And it's very also, it's interesting to know that there are now certificates, and they're called human authored certification. These certificates are granted to individuals and authors who produce their own work with zero reliance on AI. And this is something to be proud. Such certificates are, very important, like a feather in our caps. Very important to know about and to be proud of, because it's a challenge now in the AI era to produce something that has zero AI reliance. This is also a case, the Japanese novelist Rie Kudan, who, for example, she openly discussed using AI in a prize-winning novel in a limited way. All right, so I mean, it's not a shame. It's okay. Everybody's doing it. There's no problem with that, as long as we acknowledge it, as long as we are observing the policy. So publishers also, there are publishers who use books. They actually publish books which are completely written by AI, no human authorship. And these are three famous publishers. So you have Hatchet Book Group, Little Brown, and Back Bay Books use AI to generate books and publish them and sell them. And so as long as they say these texts are AI generated, there's no problem with that. Other publishers, to the other extreme, they explicitly state that there should be no AI used in the works they accept for publication. So this is AI when it comes to authorship, creativity, and ethics. So now moving on to the second part of this presentation, and it's artificial intelligence and interpretation. Readers and critics, just like authors, they also now rely on AI to understand texts. So for example, in the first part of this presentation series, we learned how we can use Google Notebook LM to understand a text, to interpret a text. And but mind you, when it comes to reading, analyzing, and interpreting a text, AI serves only as an enriching tool, as an enhancement tool. Nothing replaces the real reader or critic. So it can help me interpret a text. It can help me understand and analyze a text, but it does not definitely replace me as a critic. So how can AI enrich interpretation, help us analyze a text? This leads us to another question, which is, what can AI possibly do that we cannot do, or that we find it very difficult to do? So speed is one of the features that humans are not very good at, and AI is very good at. A human critic, for example, can analyze one text at a time. AI can analyze thousands of texts at the same time, so it saves tons of time. Example, AI can compare all 154 sonnets by Shakespeare, and then measure the frequency of particular words, and identify recurring metaphors, rhetorical structures, and then build conclusions about themes related to decay and how to dominate the sonnet. This is something that it takes a critic, a human critic, like years to fulfill. Also, AI can help in identifying subtle linguistic patterns, because even if I just read texts, I'm human. I'm going to overlook specific patterns. I will miss important details. I'm not going to catch all the details because I'm not a machine. I'm not a robot, but a robot can do that very effectively. So AI can identify microscopic stylistic patterns that are very subtle and very difficult for humans to track, uh, including phonetic, for example, phonetic repetition, stress patterns, syntactic structures, collocations, etc. AI is also very good at reverse engineering of texts. So what is reverse engineering? Reverse engineering is, instead of starting like a text from the beginning and then until you get to the finished text or output, you do it the other way around. You start from the finished product and go back to the beginning. So that's reverse engineering. A very good example of reverse engineering, which is now introduced in ChatGPT, is, for example, you upload an image of a dish to ChatGPT, and then you ask ChatGPT that based on this image, on this picture of this dish, give me the recipe. So ChatGPT will analyze the image and then goes back step by step backwards and then construct a recipe that generated this dish. The same holds true of texts. So I can give ChatGPT a text, a poem, a short story, and then it goes back and traces it step by step to its original the composition, how it was composed from the beginning, step by step. So that is reverse engineering, where you can apply it to texts, you can apply it to images as well. AI is also very good at large-scale comparison. We as humans cannot do that, or even if we do that, it would take us a lifetime to do that. An example is, for example, I'll say to ChatGPT, compare this sonnet by Shakespeare with all the sonnets written by all the other writers during his time, during the Renaissance. Now, this is something that, again, I cannot do. Also, AI is very good as a hypothesis generator. So it can generate topics and hypotheses for you that have not been dealt with, addressed before. An example is I ask ChatGPT, I say, what are the themes or metaphors or stylistic devices or whatever that exist in Shakespeare's writings and that have not been yet, analyzed before by other critics. So no critics have covered those, but they are still there in Shakespeare. So this is new ground for me to cover. This will make me, find new topics for research. So AI is good at that. We're not good at that. So this is an example of a prompt, a reverse engineering prompt that I gave AI, and the prompt was in a 400-word essay, reverse engineer Shakespeare's sonnet 18. So this is the essay I got, which is the result of reverse engineering a sonnet by Shakespeare. Now, you might ask, what is the difference between writing an essay, asking ChatGPT to analyze an essay, or analyze a poem, for example, or a text, and then reverse engineering? So what's the difference between reverse engineering a text and analyzing a text? So here in the next slide, I'm showing you in these two columns the difference between analyzing a text and reverse engineering. So for example, if we analyze a text, we'll be searching for meaning, for interpretation, for themes, motifs, etc. But when we ask ChatGPT to reverse engineer a text, it shows us how it was written from scratch. So it deals with issues like composition, and also reconstruction. So you will get two different essays with because even ChatGPT is going to the mode of operation differs when it analyzes. It's not like when it is reverse engineering. So in conclusion, we can conclude that attitudes towards AI with regard to authorship vary from zero reliance, these are anti-AI authors, to full reliance. And with acknowledgements, and I say acknowledgements because ethics is very important. So publication policies, AI policies should all be taken into consideration before we move to the next step. And when it comes to interpretation, we can say that AI is becoming an indispensable tool in interpreting texts. So with the right tool, you can really generate very good analysis, and you can yourself conduct a very good, effective, full analysis of any text you wish. So thank you very much, and I hope this presentation was useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Muayed. Thank you so much. I think the presentation was very necessary and very important to complete the image of all the information we had already in the previous two webinars. Now we will listen to if anyone has any if you want to ask, just raise your hands or just open your mics. Ms. Wiam, could you please
Okay.
open the mics for people to ask? Dr.
Yes.
Tahsin? Yes. Yes, Dr. Tahsin.
Thank you, Dr. Adhraa.
Most welcome.
Actually, I am very grateful for Dr. Muayed for highlighting these points. It's very important for everyone like to write or read something within using the AI. Just one thing I want to tell him about. The experiment of Shakespeare sonnet, actually done in 2018 before the ChatGPT, in Alan Turing Institute in Cambridge University, and I was actually one of the people that joined the team, and that I was involved in it. I was in Kingston University, but I have a cooperation with Alan Turing at that time. Now Alan Turing Institute is closed, actually, from Cambridge University. If you see that experiment, there were something very important thing, after the generation of the sonnets, they said to the others that it is one of the lost sonnets of Shakespeare, and they give it to 10 professors in different universities. All of them are professional in their work, of course, in linguistics, and know Shakespeare style very well. And 9 of them said it is yes for Shakespeare. 9. One, he said, actually, I don't know. That's the result. It was before the ChatGPT. This experiment was before the ChatGPT. It was in 2018. So from 18 until now, 26, what kind of technology that we have for the digital humanities, especially the tools that we used to write or to read from the one thing, Dr. Muayed, why we insist that the creativity must be from human. If we see now there's intelligent tools, creative, and produce a very creative texts for us. That's all. You know, it's against the people test. You know, who judge about this text is good and that one is not. I just remember in 1968, one of the lecturers in Harvard University, Alex Siegel wrote a novel. It's a simple one, love story. Everyone read it. It's separated in a very wide way. It converted to movie, music. They sell millions of copies. After that, he wrote another novel, which it was, I think, Oliver or something like that, and doesn't accepted by the people as the one before. Do you know why? Because the publisher was very, very smart. He put just one sentence of the novel on the cover of the book, which it was at that time said, love is not, yeah, I think love means that we have never to say I'm sorry. That's the sentence he put it as. It makes the people accept it. That just a sentence make the people accept it. Now we have a text, maybe novels, maybe stories produced by AI. Maybe the people will love it, will like it, and it will be spread like what the others read. And many people and many others now writing a books, and no one buy their books. It's also at the same time. So we are now in an era that sharing the intelligent tools to produce something for the benefit of the humanity itself. Thank you very much, Dr. Muayed.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thanks a lot.
Dr. Muayed, I'll have to ask, would you like us to take all the questions and then you will answer, or is it okay for you to answer each person?
It's up to you. Depends on your policy. No problem.
Because we have another question from Noor Ahmed. We can take two questions and then you can answer. Noor?
Yes, good evening, doctors.
Good.
Good evening. Hello.
This is, can we legitimately describe AI-generated text as authored by AI, given that human styles often shape them? And additionally, is it possible to eliminate human bias? So whether from the prompter or from the human author style, to produce a truly bias-free AI-written short stories? This is my question.
Thank you.
Well, there is no, when it comes to the human factor, there is no guaranteed zero objectivity. I mean, even if the AI model is generating the text, we should not forget that the prompter, the person who is writing the prompt for that text, for that model to generate the text, is at the end of the day human. So, and that human being, that human user can never be stripped of his or her, subjectivity. So, and an example, to give you an example, is that if you now ask me and ask someone else at the same time to write a prompt to generate a story about, let's say, so-and-so, and then we both write the prompt to ChatGPT to generate that story, if you compare our prompts, they will not be identical. There must be some differences, lexical, structural differences. So we cannot really eliminate 100% objectivity. So bias is always there, but the question is how much bias. So the degree of objectivity and subjectivity is the question, right? Thank you very much for your question. And great. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Would you like to answer Dr. Tahsin too?
Okay,
Okay.
I'd be glad to.
I mean, his previous comment. If you don't have any comment, then
Oh, I totally agree with Dr. Tassim. The AI is actually not an overnight invention. AI is the fruit of many years of experimentation. The only difference between now, for example, and the text or output generated decades ago is, of course, it's more systematic now, more advanced. And I would also like to add something to Dr. Tassim's observation. I totally agree with Dr. Tassim that ChatGPT has, and all AI models have now incorporated within their systems the humanization factors in order to make them mimic human emotions and human uniqueness and peculiarities, which makes them, of course, closer to humans and very difficult to identify as machines. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. I can see Mrs. Lamia.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay. Hello. Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Muayed,
Thank you
for
very much.
the invaluable information. You enrich us with. I doubt if we can find all this information in one text or in any text. Yeah. You combine all in one, really. Thank you very much. My question is, do you remember you mentioned that when we talk about a text, the author is not the only person involved. We have the reader and we have other factors.
Yes.
How does AI blur the boundaries between the author, the reader, and the interpreter? Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So when AI generates any text, it has procedures to follow. So what it does is that it takes the prompt and then it starts predicting, it starts answering if it's a question or just a query or a command. It starts giving the output. So we have input and then there's output but between the input, sandwiched between the input and the output is a long series of steps. And those steps involve, those steps involve the data that it was trained on. It involves its algorithms. It involves many calculations and until it gets to that output. So when we take into consideration all that corpus of data it was trained on, the design, the system, then there are many humans involved there. So for example, Shakespeare is the human that provided that data to be trained on. The engineers and the designers and programs are the humans that shaped those steps for AI, dictated those steps to the model, and the writer of the prompt is also the human. So it's I'm sorry, I should have silenced my phone.
Yeah.
So these are all the factors, the human factors that go into the making of this output.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really have one more question, if you allow me, Dr. Adhraa. To what extent can AI preserve the semantic, pragmatic, and cultural meaning of the text?
Oh, thank you very much. That's a very good question. So it depends on the constraints we give AI. If we want the AI model to stick, to adhere 100% to that data, then we give it that constraint. I can simply, I don't have to write the code for that. I can simply in the prompt say, stick to the text, do not depart from this data or this. If I want it to improvise, I'm going to ask it to be free. like do not stick to the text.
Yeah.
So this level of departure or deviation from the original will depend on the constraints I give it in the prompt. But but this is not the only constraint, because the designers of the model have also set the temperature of the model. The lower the temperature, the more it adheres to it. The higher the temperature, the more it departs, hence the more hallucination we have. I mean, we should remember that there is a risk in deviating from the original, because we're at the risk of hallucination then.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Lamia. We have engineer Azhar Al-Qaisi, I think.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
reading.
Thank
Hello.
you.
You can
Hello.
answer this.
Thank you, Dr. Adhraa.
Most welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Muayed.
Thank you very much.
Just my question regarding reverse engineering. That you mentioned that AI can start from the final results and analyzes its pattern and structure to rebuild the process. What I think that if you have multi-story building and being demolished and being because of earthquake, because of war, many challenges that face some projects, I think AI is so difficult for him to, from the result of the the building, can return back the building as it is before, because it needs many other horizontal activities to be done and to find a solution to what kind of demolishing, what kind of the structure, what kind of soil investigation. There is many investigation and tests to be done in order to retain the building as it is, like foundation, so the process it need, I think, more that what AI can return the building, not the same principles or process regarding the text or the Shakespeare words or anything. Just I want to know your idea about things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I totally agree with you. There is a limit to what AI can do. After all, no tool is perfect. And one of the reasons that AI fails to do that is that it does not have the data or the history, what happened to that building or what happened to that product. But if it does have access to the data of what happened to it and the history of it, only then it might be able to reconstruct it and reverse engineer it. Otherwise, because we should always remember that AI can do nothing with zero data. The more data it has, the better output it will provide. So if it does not have access to that data, to the history of the final or end result, then it cannot reverse engineer it. Thank you very much.
Could I add something just for that thing? It's actually, Dr. Azhar, it's actually not a reverse engineering. It's a statistical theory, which is called backward analysis. That's what they use. But they use, the term reverse engineering just to explain the process. But it's not like the reverse engineering we know as an engineers in our projects. This one is a backward analysis theorem. It's a statistical one. Thank you.
What I mean that it means that, according to answer of Dr. Muayed and Dr. Tahsin, that we have to feed AI with information of such what we have as build drawing, maybe the history of the projects, maybe the soil investigation. What we have information, we have to feed in order that he will continue the processes to give us the results, how to be the building as before.
He gave
Well,
he gave a good example for the dish. I think that one is a simple and good example. You know, for a dish, it's a recipe. So just want to know which kind of ingredients, maybe the process of cooking it to get this dish. This is a reverse analysis, Dr. Adhrar. You know very well the difference between reverse engineering and the reverse analysis.
thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. I can see also Dr. Muna and Miss Anam also raising their hands.
Please let Inam.
Okay,
Okay.
because you did first. Yeah, Miss Anam, go ahead, please ask.
All right. Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Muayed, for this illuminating information about AI regarding authorship and interpretation. I wonder, it's about my question about, you said it's now a distributed authorship. Which means that more than one party involved in creating a text. How about the ownership rights? Who is the real owner of it? Legally speaking, yani, this point, how can it be sorted out? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's a very illuminating question. Thanks a lot. So I believe that the propriety of the text, of any text generated by AI, depends on whether it's published or not. So once it's published, then it will follow the regular rules set by the publisher regarding propriety and ownership and copyright. As long as it's not published, I believe it would be just like any story we pen and just put on the shelf without publishing it. So I believe that once a text which is generated or which has this distributed authorship is published, then the publisher has this publication policy that tells us who's the owner or who's the proprietor or the co-author, etc. And that will pass down to the financial, of course, considerations. And this is what I think.
Thank you very much.
Then, Doctor, is this strictly only about creative writing? What about research? So, I mean, the ownership will still be. I mean, we do research to be published.
Yes. Well, the human researcher is, of course, proper. The owner of research. I mean, not the owner, but also he's the originator of research, whether he or she used AI or not. So it's just like authorship. So if I write research and I use AI and I follow the publisher's policy, AI policy, and I acknowledge that I'm using AI, I'm going to be, of course, if there's no co-researcher, I will be the researcher per se.
Yeah. I see. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Dr. Muna, you can please ask.
Okay. Are there any other people who want to ask?
No, I don't. I can't see any hands.
Okay, then. Honestly, I care very much about the idea. I mean, whatever has been said about ownership and about, plagiarism. Plagiarism is the most serious problem now in research, especially that so many people are using it in research, in writing, creative writing. So can you just let me know, please? I mean, how easy is it to detect AI-generated plagiarism? Is it easy or is it complicated? Who can do it? Can teachers, academics detect this easily? I know there are tools like, the well-known tools of, detecting plagiarism, but now it's everywhere. It's everywhere in research, in universities, creative writing, people writing short stories, people writing essays. So how easy is it for the teacher, since this is for AI for educators, how easy it is? Is it easy for teachers to detect this kind of AI-generated plagiarism? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. It's very, very difficult, almost next to impossible, to tell whether a research paper has been generated by AI or not, because AI is very good at mimicking humans, excellent at that, to the extent that sometimes, if I write a research paper, some might think that this is AI generated. If AI writes a research paper, the same people might say this is human generated. AI detects, all these detectors, plagiarism detectors. The best ones are in the market are Turnitin.
Yeah.
Turnitin is used generally for student papers.
Yeah.
And has a very large repository of papers from all around the world and academic institutions. And the other one is Authenticate. Authenticate is used for scholars and researchers. It's more advanced, but both of them have AI detection in addition to similarity rate detection.
Also Hive, Muayed.
Yes.
Hive.
Yes.
And also there is GPT-0. As I read, I made some search about these tools for detecting plagiarism, and there is also CopyLeaks. I'm sure you're familiar with these.
Yeah. They use AI detection. They have integrated AI detection tools within them, but they're not good at it. They're not good at it. And the reason why they're not good at it is because they are simply detecting what AI can. You see, how do they make this detection? By identifying patterns which are very frequent in AI model outputs. But the problem is AI model outputs are based on human outputs. And many researchers, so that's very difficult to know. It's just like it's a vicious circle. And also, it reminds me of the chicken and egg puzzle, what comes from what. And also, many researchers are now taking, for example, their AI use to the next level by using humanizers. So, for example, they ask ChatGPT to produce a research paper, and then they use humanizing tools to humanize it so that it will be very difficult for AI assistance detections to identify it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Muayed, thank you so much for this wealth of information. I feel like I need to be your student now to teach me more about all this.
I'm your lifetime student.
Thank you. No. You're no longer my student. I can also be your student because I learned so much from this webinar, and there were questions in my mind which you answered in your presentation. Thank you very much for this mind-opening and amazing presentation, and may God bless you for all your generosity.
Thank you very much. Thanks for everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Now we will take only the last one and last question from Dr. Murtada.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Adhraa, and thanks a lot, Dr. Muayed, for your informative lecture
Thank you.
presentation. I don't have a question. It's just a request for clarification. I thought I understood what you said about creativity as being something that could be shared between human authors and AIs, I'm sorry. And while interpretation, you said that interpretation is only a kind of a human concern. I just want to make sure that I understood this clearly, and I would appreciate it if you could illustrate something or say something more about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. When it comes to creativity, with the advent of artificial intelligence, we now reshaped to a certain extent our idea of creativity. We cannot really come up with something completely, absolutely new, because nothing comes out of a clear blue sky. Everything is based on something before it. According to our artificial intelligence perspective today, creativity and originality is simply taking existing elements and then restructuring, recontextualize them, restructure them, reorder them, reorganize them in order to come up with something new. But coming up with something new, absolute novelty, is an impossibility. And for interpretation, what I wanted to say and elaborate on is that nothing replaces, no AI can replace the human critic, the human interpreter. What happens is that the human interpreter can rely partially on AI to enhance the process of interpretation, to find some niches or undiscovered, uncharted revenues within the realm of literature or within any form of art.
But couldn't AI do the job?
Yes. It can, for example, it can scan the data, find specific, according to the prompt and constraints we give it, it can find specific elements, it can analyze them, restructure them, reorder them, recognize specific patterns, recognize syntactic structures within, and even recognize anomalies, peculiarities, and uniqueness within a large corpus of texts.
If it could do all these things, then it could conclude, and conclusion is interpretation in this case, right?
Yes, it can do that. It can definitely do that. But just like authorship, we can ask AI to be the sole author of a text. We can also ask AI to be the sole interpreter of a text, but and we can also ask AI to be a partial interpreter of a text, not a full one. So in both cases, it works in both cases. But when it comes to research, research is not like authorship.
Of course.
You see, because when it comes to research, we should use AI as an assistant researcher, but not as
President Donald Trump now
Thank you so much.
Donald Trump using the AI when he have a video conference with the other presidents. He doesn't depend on the human interpreters.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Now we are talking about interpretation in a different sense.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you all for this interesting webinar.
Thank you, Dr. Muayed. I want you. You've been so generous with us, and you've given us so much of your time. And
my honor.
Already got 3 webinars. Is there going to be a 4th one?
Well, it's a presentation trilogy.
Okay.
There were 3 parts to it, and if I come up with an idea for a 4th one, I would be more than happy, of course, to present it.
We
if
will
you,
be always
if you agree to help me.
happy to be listening to you. Thank you so much. For those who haven't attended the previous webinars, please visit our YouTube channel and you will find all the webinars, the 2 other parts of this series, and also all the webinars of the Iraqi women humanities scholars. And thank you so much, Dr. Muayed, for this gap filling, and you've answered all our questions. We have many more, but of course, if anyone who has any questions, they can contact Dr. Muayed or our group on Facebook, and we will be happy to reach to Dr. Muayed and also deliver your questions.
Dr. Adhraa, if you allow me, please. Good evening, everybody.
Good
Good
Sorry?
evening, Dr. Muayed.
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you so much. I don't have a question, but if you allow me, my student Noor, who is working on this topic and doing her project, AM project, would like to ask her a question, and she's raising her hand. If you allow her, please.
I think Noor asked.
Yes, ask, but she has another question because this is the topic of her MA proposal or project. But if you allow her, please, just let her have her question.
Yes, Noor, if you can just unmute.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Dr. Nawal.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate the opportunity. This is the best opportunity I could have. So my other question is, if AI-generated text are not truly objective, as you previously said, can we still consider them as independently authored narratives? So can me, as a researcher, objectively compare AI-generated short stories, for example, with human-written short stories, even if I did the generation process? Would that be an objective analysis, an objective study?
It would be objective if your analysis would be objective. So it depends on your method of analysis. Theoretically, there is a percentage of subjectivity in it, but when it comes to research, yes, if you follow the scientific regulations and rules of research, then it would be, of course, considered objective for purposes of acceptance and publication and also promotion. Yes, it would be objective. But theoretically, of course, if we dive deep into this topic, there is a human factor. And as long as there is a human factor, there is a degree of subjectivity. And that topic, by the way, is a very good and valid topic for research. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Noor, and thank you, Dr. Muayed, for answering. Thank you, everyone, for joining and staying with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll have to say good night, and I hope you enjoyed this. We are looking forward for our next webinars, and good night, everyone.
Thank you, Adhraa, so much, and thank you, Dr. Muayed. Thank you, our guest, great guest. Thank you from the heart. Thank you for making this webinar really more enriching and more interesting and more lively. Thank you and good night, all of you.
Thank you.
مع السلامة. استودعكم الله.
مع السلامة. Thank you.